Welcome to Saturday's Warrior. Over a week has gone on since BYU was bounced from the first round of March Madness. And so tonight we are going to, I think, regroup a little bit and see how we're coping with the loss. But also, we're going to go through and grade BYU on this season. We're going to go through each player, give some grades. We're going to look at the coaching staff, the offense, and the defense, and just kind of talk through how we think everyone did and a little bit about who we'd like to see come back, who we think kind of has a future in development, and but mostly giving out grades tonight. So before we get into it, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. We're climbing. We're trying to get to 2,000 plus and keep growing and get more and more Cougar fans, BYU fans, college sports fans in general here with us. So all right, Adam, before we start dishing out grades too much, wanted to, let's see. Well, first off, man, I saw this tweet here this week, and it said, y'all remember 2018 Elijah Bryant? And man, I'll tell you, I thought a lot about that man during this season. That is a guy who could have, I think I would have given a solid A to.
He was awesome.
Had he come back, he was great, and we definitely could have used it. His ball handling, shooting, distribution, like he just everything this team needed.
Yep. And it feels like that's what the teams have missed. I think Yegor filled that role towards the latter end of last season, but for the first chunk of that season, we didn't have it. I'm getting used to KY's offense still, but it doesn't feel like there's not a point guard, right? It's positionless basketball. We're hearing a lot about that, and you're used to having somebody like Elijah Bryant, or I'm trying to think of somebody. I mean, Dallin Hall filled that role prior, but Alex Barcelo is another one. There was just a really good. You want that guy to have the ball in his hands because he can score, but he's also going to distribute and captain the offense. We don't have a guy like that. That's supposed to be the guy in this offense, and it's just a different way to play basketball. It's how the NBA works, but yeah, seeing Elijah Bryant, I'm like, man, he was awesome.
What do you mean?
Just a security blanket.
Rob Wright was a point guard. I mean, he was one guy that had a clearly. Well, I'd say Rob Wright and Keita had clearly defined positions. The rest of them were kind of positionless.
Yeah, but you did see AJ bring the ball up a lot. You didn't really have a second guy, and Rob Wright's just a different kind of point guard. He's not Elijah Bryant, right? He's not as skilled a passer as some of our more traditional point guards we've had at BYU. He's 10 times the scorer that we typically have at that position. I love watching him play. He's lightning quick. He's just a different style. It's a style that I think fits KY's offense, but he's not your traditional distributor. I didn't feel like he captained the offense like your traditional point guard.
Oh, that's for sure. We'll get into that with his grade. Elijah Bryant, man, he's got a ring, so he's got the open grade right
he does
there,
indeed. So. Go Bucks!
But before we get to the men's team to give out grades, you got to give out some grades for the women's team here, making the championship. That was earlier tonight, so
yeah,
it's not the women's NCAA official tournament. It's the WBIT, which is essentially the NIT for the women's basketball. However, if you're going to miss out, if people felt like they got robbed a little bit, if you're just going to miss out on March Madness, you're going to go to the other tournament, you got to go and have a showing like this. You don't want to flame out. I can't remember. I was looking at the bracket to some other one seed lost in the first round. And, you want to come and not be, you're going to be disappointed, but you want to go make the most of it. And this team seemed locked in. And so I would give them, I don't know, maybe a B+ on the season. Yeah, they missed out and it took them a little bit to get there, but they've turned things around. You got to stay ending it wrong.
They really have. And when you show out like this in the WBIT, you do two things. Number one, you springboard into next season because you're playing with a lot of confidence. And two, you're showing the committee and kind of shoving it back to the committee saying, yeah, you made a mistake by leaving us out. That's what the WBIT champion every year can say is, hey, you missed out on us. Clearly we should have been in the NCAA tournament. And same thing with the NIT champion gets to say that on the men's side. And so you do get some bragging rights in that. It's small consolation because you want to be in the big dance. But if you're not in that, this is certainly the best way to end a season.
Yeah. And you can't go and lay an egg. You got to go and have this kind of performance. And like you're saying, just like football, we talk about all the time. Like this is a multiple year process, multiple year kind of audition to try to get in, right? You've got to stack these years to show the committee you're for real. It's not just going to happen as, on a single year alone. So like you said, showing the committee they may have made a mistake. And then got to go to Lee Kamard, got to give him an A+.
Seriously.
Coaching for this season.
I didn't see this kind of success from the Cougars in year one. I thought they'd have some improvement over last year, but that's a big bounce. I mean, they really bounced back after underperforming the last couple of years, and to put it together like this and to have this kind of season in year one, it really bodes well for the future for the Cougars.
Yeah, and so I mean, admittedly, I don't follow women's basketball nearly as closely as perhaps I should. But from what I understand, I mean, they took a chance hiring Whiting from the high school ranks. It didn't pan out. They had a lot of talent, and they still just couldn't really put it all together. Yeah. And she leaves. So you lose her daughter, who was a solid player. And then I think they lost one of their other top players.
Mm-hmm.
She go to Texas. Is that right?
Yep. Transferred to Texas.
And so, I have to remind me her name. But anyway, so it seemed like, okay, this might be a tough, rebuild. You had a couple rough years in a row. You got a new coach coming in, you're losing some players, and now you got to build on that. And now not only did they come in and was he able to right the ship, but they improved upon that team and really came out, especially by the end of the year, looking really strong. So Lee Kamard, he was the star of the BYU basketball to the very first BYU basketball game I ever attended in person. So
there you go.
Yeah. I feel a little bit of a connection for him. So, that just saying that, like, I think of him fondly, and obviously he was kind of the precursor to that Jimmer era. And so, and so he's still getting it done for BYU.
Yep.
Do you think there's ever a chance down the road, KY goes back to the NBA or whatever, that he'd ever make the switch to the men's team?
I don't know. Number one, he's pretty dedicated to the women's program. He was an assistant coach there for a while. You hear him talk about the women's program. And also, it's just so different now. I think you could do that back in the 90s, early 2000s. You saw some of the coaches flow back and forth. But the recruiting relationships you build over time and all that makes you a successful head coach, it could be done. I don't see that happening. I really don't. And I think Lee would choose to stay with the women's program, even if he was offered the men's gig, because that's what he's known. And you hear him talk about it. He's passionate about women's basketball and the strategy into it, the in-game adjustments, the way you run offense and defense. They're just very, very different now.
It's a good point. Yeah, I wondered. I mean, some people they go on and they never want to. Other people, it's always kind of a stepping stone to get somewhere else. So anyway, I wasn't actually planning on talking about any of this. I was just kind of going here because it got me thinking about it. But got to give them a lot of props. Good grades going out there. But now we're going to switch to the men because I think some of these grades might be a little bit different with this men's team. But
different feel.
A different feel.
Right. Low expectations. Exceeding expectations, even though you're in the WBIT, is a totally different feel than sky high expectations. Going to the NCAA tournament as a 6 seed and getting bounced. It's just a different feel on the season completely. Even though you could argue successfully that the men's accomplishments this year outshone the women's accomplishments, the regular season, the top 25 ranking, all that stuff. But the feeling around the two programs right now are totally different. But right now you're saying, wow, man, that women's basketball team is really headed in the right direction. The men's team, you're like, well, there's some question marks. Let's see who's coming in next year. So,
yeah, to your point, and we've said this on other episodes, had BYU come in and made a run to the Elite Eight, even the Sweet 16, but like the Elite Eight, people would have been like, wow, this team was injured. I know we had higher hopes than this, but and you'd never think about all those low points throughout the season.
No.
You would have remembered this team for what it accomplished in March Madness. Yep. And this team, again, it's the WBIT, but nonetheless, if they come out, especially if they win, But even so, making it to this championship game, you got to give them credit and ending definitely on a high note and sending the team in the right direction for next season.
Yep.
Okay. So love it. I saw this tweet this week from BYU Philly Sports. Says a healthy BYU squad was national championship contender. No ifs, ands, or buts. They lost to 2 Final Four teams in Arizona by 3 and UConn by 2. Injuries destroyed our season. I thought I was over it, but no, it hurts even more now. So Adam, I gotta ask: are you over it? Are you healing? Or have you put it past you? Oh, looks like you're frozen here. So, actually, wonder if this is on my end here. All right, are you back here, Adam? Well, nonetheless, clearly some people are not over it. Can't get over it. I think. Okay, let's see. You back?
So yeah, in answer to your question, I'm still angry. I don't even want to answer questions about this. No, I'm healing. I'm over it. I'm ready to look forward. I'm looking at stuff on Bruce Branch the third.
All right, you're cutting out. I am. Let's see here. Yeah, cutting out. So while Adam tries to get his internet in order, I'm going to move on here with this. It's tough. Oh, wait, you're coming back a little bit. I got to say, well, I'll let you finish your thought.
Am I back?
Yeah, you are back.
All right, that's my fault. No, I'm saying I'm healing. I'm looking forward. Let's look at the portal. Let's look at needs for next year. Who might be coming in? Who might be leaving? I'm ready for the offseason. Off seasons for BYU basketball have been thrilling over the past couple seasons since KY showed up. So I love it. This is second season for basketball. Let's look forward.
Yeah, except this season I've learned my lesson, just like I have with football. Don't get overhyped in the off season. Just take it for what it is. We've got some good signs and some good things to build off of, and something to look forward to. But nothing to start counting down the days to. Let's just one day at a time.
Yep.
It's kind of where I'm at. I'm in protection mode. And I'll always think back to this. I, like we said, waited almost a whole year to get there, and then just it's over.
It is. It is. And I feel that way about most BYU sports because I have had such sky high expectations as a youth growing up. I was like, man, nothing's going to stop us from winning the Natty in football or basketball or whatever it is, even though we were coming off of 5-7 season, whatever it was. So I learned that lesson many, many times. And I'm a totally different BYU fan, I think, because of that. I'm thrilled when if the football team wins 9 games, goes to a bowl game. That's great. I know we have expectations to kick down the door of the playoff, and if injuries derail that season, it's still going to be fun. And the fact that we've got AJ here, I mean, we talked about this last week. I'm just stoked that BYU's in the national spotlight like this. For me, they don't have to have a deep run to appreciate the season. It was disappointing the way it ended, but I'm over it. Let's move on. The off seasons are fun. The fact that Bruce Branch III is coming is awesome, and we get to see him in the McDonald's All American game and stuff that's never been a part of BYU basketball before, ever. And I want to soak it all up. I don't want the first round bounce to just create disillusionment and disappointment. I want to soak up what BYU basketball is right now, and that is a player on the national stage for some of the top talent. And I am fully confident one of these years we'll put it together for a deep run, and we'll also get bounced a lot because that's March Madness.
I mean, and everyone does. I mean, you look at Duke, that crazy finish last
That was
night.
nuts.
And I know that everyone's going to talk about Duke and choking and all that. And I don't feel bad for them one bit, but that's not fair. Different teams, different circumstances every time, but it really was kind of a choke job. I mean, to have that kind of lead and then just the way they handled that final possession, obviously not great.
Yep.
But it goes to show just how hard it is to do that, game in, game out. And so, you're right. I can cope. I'm putting it past me. I'm trying to move on. I try not to think about it too much. And just take it for what it is. It would have helped more if this team had been a little bit more fun to watch. You would have looked back at all these fun memories. Whereas like the previous team, the Jaeger team, that team, they were fun to watch at moments. They had a lot of plays. You'd see them, the way they were cohesively, had some fun wins. Not every single game was so stressful and then ending disappointing and then just saying, well, at least it's a quad one loss.
I agree. AJ was fun to watch and he had some jaw-dropping plays, but outside of that, it just the ebb and the flow of the team and the defensive lapses were really frustrating. So there were some frustrating games. I think egged on by the fact that we had these sky high expectations of the team, and so it's harder when you are expecting this and you keep getting the struggles and the and the stuff that goes on and on is discouraging. So I agree with that. I don't think that's necessarily the wrong take. That there were some frustrating games this year, more so than you'd expect and more so than other seasons.
Yeah, and I guess to your point with the sky high expectations with Bruce Branch, he kind of has it easier coming in following up AJ because his expectations aren't going to be the same because he's not, even though he's a similar caliber player in the sense that he's going to be a top draft pick in the lottery, but not coming in with the same amount of hype as AJ. But then also now this team is, I think a lot of BYU fans are going to come in guarded like we are and aren't going to hype up this season on the same way that we did this last year. And so it'll hopefully be easier for this team to come in. And also now this year, KY's gone through it once with a team of this with a player of this caliber on this team. And hopefully he's learned a lot on how to structure this team in terms of players to put around him, offensive schemes, defensive schemes, and whatnot.
Yeah, so, I think so.
So that's all good, I think. Positive. And now I've just talked myself into Final Four this year. I'm hyped again. I've already done it. I've fallen into I've learned my lesson. All right. So let's go ahead and do it. Let's start giving out grades for this season. I just opened up roster, obviously given incomplete to Nate Pickens, but everybody else that had minutes, I think any at all, I think we'll roll through them and dish them out. So let's start obviously with AJ Debonta. What grade would you give him?
Could you give him anything less than an A? An A plus?
Well, I guess that's the question. Are you going A plus or A?
A plus. The guy put the team on his back, exceeded all expectations, led the nation in scoring, came in with the hype of the potential number 1 overall pick. Started the season as the number 2 pick in a lot of people's eyes because Darren Peterson was all that, and probably earned that number 1 spot back. Obviously, in our extremely biased opinion, should have been Naismith Player of the Year over Cameron Boozer, but it is what it is. So A plus for AJ.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little nitpicky, and I almost gave AJ an A. His free throw shooting could have been a little bit better. When you're a guy that's going to get to the line as much as he does, and you're in the set, you got to be in the 80s percent for your free throws. And that last game, he was terrible at hitting threes, although his 3-point game did improve throughout the season.
Yeah.
There were things, but he's a young player, and all of those pale in comparison to all the good that he did. Yeah, he's absolute A plus on and off the court. Just brought everything, lived up to all the hype, and he played himself from could he be second, third pick? Could he even be fourth pick? We'll see. Whatever. To seems like at this point a pretty clear cut, at least about as clear cut as you can have. Consensus number 1 pick going into this year's draft.
I would say as clear as you can get in a draft that's this loaded, right? Last year, Flagg was the obvious number 1. He was your only star in that in that draft class, right? It was no question. You have one of the deepest draft classes ever, including at the top in those top three or four spots. So the fact that he's not quite consensus, but he's trending that way as a number one pick says it all. In a draft class this loaded, he still rises to the top. I think that's what's most incredible is you're getting. I don't know that it's consensus. We'll see how the pre-draft workouts go and the discussion. It can ebb and flow, and ESPN wants drama around that, and so they'll hype that up. But at the end of the day, when you hear from NBA scouts on this, everybody's kind of like, yeah, what? Why would you pass on that? Like you'd be mad at yourself for a generation if you pass up on AJ.
Unless you're the Kings, then you should definitely pass up on him.
Please don't get the number one draft pick. But
But
he'll
yeah,
come back. He'll play for BYU another year if they're the number one.
Yeah, please do, AJ. No, yeah, that's well said. So, all right. So we both agree, AJ A plus. There's not a whole lot to debate on that. I mean,
Yeah.
in fact, when I talk about this team being hard to watch this last year, AJ was the one bright spot consistently. I mean, just brought some miraculous plays from every game. Just so many highlights that we can always cherish. We can always hold on to and go back when we're, feeling bummed about another team's early bounce from March Madness. We can go back and watch those highlights. Okay, and number 2, Rob Wright, the third.
Yeah, I'm going to give Rob Wright a B plus. I thought he was good. Like I said, I loved his scoring. I don't think we've ever had a point guard that can score like that. Incredibly athletic. I dropped him for a couple different reasons. Number one is defense. By the end of the season, it felt like they were kind of trying to hide him on defense, and the lack of length, particularly, just hurt him against some of the more athletic teams. And then he struggled in clutch moments. I mean, he came up big in Madison Square Garden with that shot that'll be like one of my top moments from the season forever. It was, I mean, you were there, you got to experience it. It was awesome. But dribbling off his leg against UConn and had a couple other moments down the stretch where it felt like he was forcing it. And I thought he was going to come along during the season and maybe make the better play in the late moments. And it didn't feel like that progression happened. And so that's where I would fault him is in those moments where you really needed a bucket with his skill set. You feel like he could either get the bucket or facilitate for a teammate, for AJ or Keita in a lob or something, and it just didn't materialize.
Yeah, I'm with you. I graded him similarly, as I think we will on a lot of these. I gave him a B, so a little bit lower than you. I think you talked about hiding him on defense. I think that last play from the Western Virginia game was still just stuck in my mind.
I watched that in person.
Yeah, so different experiences there on that one. But
yeah,
the same thing. We talked about the dribbling off the leg against UConn. I was like, okay, we were talking about that after. It's like, you know what? That he does that 9 out of 10 times successfully and scores whatever. But we saw him make flubs like that late in other games later in the season. And then I was like, oh, maybe that wasn't the anomaly, like the one time. Like he is a great ball handler. He is a great scorer. I'd like to see him improve on his passing, finding other guys, getting them involved. He was also, I can't remember if he was the best, if not one of the best. I think he might have had the best 3-point percentage.
Yeah. He was when Saunders went down, he was our 3-point game.
Yeah. So he ended the season averaging 41% on the season. And, that was better than anybody else. And twice as good as, many other players on the team, sadly. So, you got to give him props for what he did do. But yeah, his size, it was an issue, but I thought he was skilled enough to overcome that. If he had been able to get more people involved, like what is his assists? I mean, he did lead the team in assists, but 4.6. So that's not terrible in the college level per game. But I would have liked to see that a little bit higher when you have a guy like AJ. But that was part of the problem is the offense was very stagnant, right? And so there wasn't a lot of opportunities. And when you finally did kick it out, it was to somebody that couldn't hit the shot. So that's not a pure reflection of his willingness to pass. So,
no, and that's why I like him in the program for another year. I think he grows in that offense. I like him. I know a lot of people at the end of the season were like, "Oh my goodness, Rob Wright. I hope he doesn't come back." I'd love to see him come back. I think it'd be with another year under KY and some tutelage. His skill set is incredible.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because people that don't want Rob Wright, like, who do you think that BYU's getting that's better than that? Like Rob Wright is an excellent point guard at the college level, especially. Like there are very few point guards we're going to get as skilled as him.
Yeah,
It's
you're
just
not
a
going to
matter
get an
of
upgrade there.
no. Yeah, it won't be an upgrade. So I think people that say that are wrong, and which is why I mean a B is still a good grade. Hey, I got plenty of B's in my time. You know? So all right. Speaking of Richie Saunders, where would you grade the Tater Tot King?
Man, it's so hard with that injury. We didn't get to see him in the most important moments. I got to give him an A minus because when he was playing and he was the heart of the team, I didn't feel like we'll get into this a couple different times with some of the players. I don't know defense at a technical level in NCAA basketball. So I'm probably not educated enough to say this, but it felt like the team struggled defensively with him on the floor. They couldn't figure it out. A lot of those defensive lapses, like the one at the end of the half against Clemson, came with him on the floor. And it felt like he would get exploited sometimes on defense. He's a hustle guy. Sometimes he'd overplay the ball and get exposed. That's the only knock you could give on Richie Saunders. Other than that, I mean, look at his scoring. His scoring level it increased even over last year when he won, all his awards. His 3-point shooting was consistent. He's lethal from range like he always is. He with that three-headed monster, I liked our chances to figure it out at the end of the season to make some kind of run in the tournament. And so I'm nitpicking here because at the end of the season it felt like it was AJ's team. And I feel like AJ deserves the A plus, but Rob's right there. Or Richie Saunders right there.
Yeah, I gave him an A. I wasn't, I guess, thinking as much about the defense. You're right about that. So maybe I could be knocked down to an A minus, but I give him an A because, like you said, as everybody knows, he's the heart and soul of the team, and I still felt that this year, even with AJ, even with these new guys. Like Richie was what kept this team moving. You talk about his motor, and the other thing is you felt comfortable whenever the ball was in his hands. Now, was he perfect? No, but you felt like, okay, Richie's here. You felt like there was a stabilizing force on the court. He and AJ, I don't think jived perfectly. I think they played maybe a little bit too similarly, and I think it threw Richie off, especially a lot of the ISO ball. And Richie, I don't know if he knew where to fit in with that or what. I mean, that was kind of a problem with the whole team. And so I don't put that on Richie alone. That was kind of a more systemic thing, and we'll get to that versus Richie in and of himself. And so, like I said, he improved his numbers. He just continued to show everything that he is, and the team really suffered when he went out. And so, that's why I went with A. But if you want to get nitpicky, I could see A minus. But I mean, the guy's career, the way it ended, come on, I'm going to give him a little bit of extra credit there. He
literally left it all out there for his team, man.
He did, and unfortunately, like I'm hopeful that he can still find a way to the league. But I think with his age and then coming off an injury and then having to sit out a year, and then he'd be coming back without playing, basketball at a competitive level. I think he's going to have to go a different route, and that might be through the G League from Europe or something to try to find his way back. But which is just too bad because I really wanted. I could see him getting picked up by like the Miami Heat or something.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like that would have been like a perfect fit.
Yeah.
So, bummer. Excuse me. All right, Moo Davis.
Man, I like Moo Davis, and this is going to look like a slight, but I'm giving him a C plus. The 3-point shooting was not there the way we needed it to be. He was your ultimate 3-and-D guy when you got a three-headed monster scoring. He had to hit that kick out three and slash and score on occasion, and especially when Richie went down, it was that moment of like, okay, man, you were the guy last year and had a great run. You got it in you. He's got all the talent in the world, and he just felt hesitant to step up. And so we brought him in to play lockdown defense. He didn't have those moments like we had last year with his name's escaping me. Who was everybody's favorite player last year that came from Rutgers?
Oh yeah,
Moet Mag. Thank you. Won the Wisconsin game for us. Man, I love that guy.
I just watched that highlight today.
That's what you're expecting from Moo Davis, and he just didn't have those moments. And I think because we struggled defensively, it sort of highlighted the fact that, hey, we brought you in for lockdown defense, and it's not happening. Maybe that's not on him. Again, I don't know collegiate defense to the level that I should to really make a strong critique like that. But it felt like defense was our issue all year, and he came in to anchor that. And so without the lethal shooting threat, without the consistent high scoring output, and without a super strong defense for the team, it just kind of feels like his impact wasn't where we wanted it to be this year.
Right, right. He came in with a very specific job, and it seemed like he was, at worst, very bad at those things. At best, inconsistent with those very things that he was supposed to be excellent at. I also gave him a C plus. We were same on this one, and I had a buddy come in town that moved away a few years ago, and we were talking on Saturday, hanging out and talking ball and going over the team, and he was just talking about how he thinks so. He's from the Phoenix area originally. He's a Suns fan, but he's just like, man, I see guys like Draymond Green, and he's like, I think that is so key to having somebody like that on a lot of these teams. You see that again, and then he talked about how now the Suns have I can picture his face. I'm not going to look it up now, but to get a guy, what's the guy he played at Memphis? Anyway, I don't follow the NBA that closely anymore. Anyway, he was just making that point, and that BYU didn't really have that guy, and he made the same comment. We had Moet Mag last year. Moo Davis was supposed to be that guy this year, that dog on the team, and he did not live up to that. He had moments for sure, but you'd see him sometimes get, out of position on defense. I think the whole team did, and it helped when they simplified it. But he did, especially near the end, started feeling more comfortable, making those hustle plays and making people uncomfortable. And you could see that potential. And then once Richie was gone, you'd see moments where he'd even put the ball on the floor and go score. Or all of a sudden he would get hot in like the second half of a game. You're like, okay, he's warming up now. But then he would just get cold and he'd disappear and not be able to do anything. And so it's like, if you're not a lockdown defender, if you're not at least a pretty good, consistent three-point shooter, like those are the two things we need. And he couldn't do like his. What was his 3-point percentage on the season was 32%. So not as bad as it felt at moments, but that's because he'd go so cold, and then other times he'd be so hot. And so I guess even out, but if you got a cold night, like you're done. And as we found out against Texas. So C plus. So again, that's still above average. Like I still felt more comfortable with him out there than not. But that was maybe because of that. Maybe that says more about the rest of the roster than it does him. But he still brought pieces, and I think he can still put it all together. So if he does come back to BYU, I really hope that they can unlock some of that because it's there.
It's there. I'm not optimistic given where he's at in his collegiate career and how many games he's played. Maybe another year in the system helps. I don't know. I feel like Rob can still grow in the system. I think he embraced a lot of that. I thought he showed off his positive traits, whereas Moo just struggled. And so I don't know. I don't know if it's the right fit. That may be one where, depending on who's in the portal, I mean, KY is going to have some tough conversations. Jackson Payne talked about it last week here on the show that the roster's about filled out. Like, if you want to bring in some transfers, you got to sit down and have some tough conversations with some guys and say, hey, if you're sticking around, you're not playing. If you want to play, you got to go somewhere else. And I don't know. I'm not saying you have that conversation with Kennard Davis. I do think he has the potential. I agree with you. I'm just less optimistic that it'll unlock. I think you know what the guy is, and I think he's better coming off the bench. If you're going to really compete at the level we want to, you're going to have somebody else in his slot starting. And if he comes back and plays a rotational bench player, that's phenomenal to me. I think he'd be great if he just played in spurts. I just don't think you can rely on him as a starter.
The problem is he never in spurts. I don't think he ever gets going. Like I think he needed a lot of minutes and get a lot of volume, and then he'd finally hit, and then he'd start rolling. And so I wonder if you play him in spurts, if he ever gets those moments where he really.
Which is where I don't know that he fits. I don't.
Right. Right. No, that's a good point. And Dylan Brooks was the name I was looking for.
Oh yeah,
The NBA player, but just getting a guy like that. Now, obviously, I'm not saying get a dirty guy, or just guys that's trying to pick fights or whatever, but just somebody who's not. And Whit Mag wasn't that way, but when it came to defense, he'd get in there.
he was a lockdown.
Yeah, but I thought Moo is what we were getting, and I remember you talked about. I was at the MSG game and against Clemson, and snuck down the lower bowl. I was that kind of by Moo's family. I talked to his dad, and I said, "Hey, man," I was like, "Oh, we just love this guy," because that's who I thought we were getting, and I was like, "We just need a little more time to build the chemistry." And at that time, I still thought that's who this guy's going to be. I can't wait to like really see him like turn into this, and he never did. He had moments, but he didn't. So I think C plus is somewhat. He did have moments, but in some way, it almost feels like a generous grade. Okay, I'm just going down here from the order that ESPN had him listed in. Dawson Baker, which you could probably give him an incomplete because
I give it incomplete. We just didn't get enough. It's got to be incomplete. I feel for that guy. I hope he gets a medical red shirt and we get to see some more of him. But yeah, incomplete, man. We just didn't get to see enough.
I give him an A- based off of what we saw, what we know of him, and what this team desperately.
Oh, we needed him so bad, so bad.
So, but yeah, I put / incomplete. But if I had to grade him, yeah, I'd give him a good grade. Mostly, he's also a little bit streaky of a player. He's kind of guy that likes to have kind of that heat check every now and then.
Yep.
But man, this team could have used him. All right, Keba Keita,
I give a B plus. I thought he was great, and honestly, if I had graded him through the first 10 games of the season, I'd give him an A or an A minus. I thought he was phenomenal out the gate. They used him big time in the lob game. He was playing with his back to the basket. He seemed a little bit more disruptive in the paint and block. He was so good through those first 10 games, and I don't know if opposing teams figured him out or and I'm not talking about the first 10 games, the Patsies we played. In the tough games, UConn, Villanova, Clemson, he played really well in those games. And then it felt like he was a little absent second half of the season. And I don't know, I heard he might have injured his hand or something like that. And I don't know what played into it, but he didn't seem quite as impactful the second half of the season. And that lack of impact, that lack of scoring, lack of disruption on defense is where I'd bring him down to a B plus for the season as a whole. But to me, it was sort of two different Katas.
Yeah, you're exactly right. He wasn't the same guy. And you're right when you say that the beginning of the season, he did look like regular Keita, and something happened. And yeah, I've heard the hand thing. We know he hit his head at some point. I don't know if he was just being more tentative or if he was in pain, what was going on. He wasn't the same. But when Keita is being Keita and is throwing down lob dunks, is swatting it into the sixth row of the stands, like that man makes me feel things that other people do not. And I'm okay admitting that, but we were not seeing that mostly. We saw little bits of it, but mostly we were not seeing that throughout the back part of the season. And in that last game, Volkatitis, like, yeah, he was tall, but Keita should have been able to move that guy around a little bit. And
with just his shoulders.
Yeah. I mean, his shoulders would have gone like right into his gut, right? Like just move the guy off the block. And he was just, not only was he going over Keita, but sometimes there was just nobody to even go over. He was just getting right to the basket.
Yeah.
So it was tough. So did I say already I gave Keita a B? But yeah, same ballpark. Like he just did not, he seemed to have regressed from last year, but also from earlier in the season. So bummer, because he's
so good. He's one of my favorite players.
Yeah, one of my favorite players to ever suit up for BYU. And so many of my favorite highlights. And just to end it that way, just looking not fully himself is rough.
Yeah, it's too bad.
All right. Kostic.
Oh, Kostic, man. I got to give him a D plus.
D plus.
Yeah. I think he's one that I mean, KY pseudo called people out at the end of the season, right? Where, they said, what are you looking for in the portal? Like, look, shooting's everything. We just didn't have it this year. And Kostic is your shooting, right? And it wasn't his fault. We talked about this before. He was your fourth option at that spot that he had to come in and start. And so he wasn't ready for it. I hope he is one that sticks around. He's young enough in his career and he can shoot the lights out when he's on. Like you could see him as a pure shooter. And you could also see him completely lost on the floor, not sure what's going on. Watching him in the West Virginia game after Rob Wright is looking the other way and lets a guy go around him to score, and then you have a chance to get back in the game and tie it up, and Kostic fumbles the fast break pass because he's not even looking. He's struggled too much. He's a guy that has huge potential, but if I'm looking at just the production this season, it was not a good one for him.
Yeah, I said C minus, which I mean at that point, D plus is probably a better grade for him. He did have his moments. I remember though when he came out and started getting more minutes. When he first started getting some playing time, and I saw this all over Twitter. People were like, "Oh, I really like it," and I was like, "What are people seeing?" I'm seeing him turned around like all the time, like and trying to scramble to find his guy that was left completely open. I mean, the one thing I'll give him is he was hustling, which is great. Like he always felt like he was hustling and he was trying and that he cared. But then it
Yes,
was worrying that it's like, how could a guy be trying that hard and be that
that
bad,
loss.
in the defense? And so, and obviously he wasn't bringing, in terms of offense, the streaky shooting. He had his moments, but again, they really needed one thing. Yeah, I mean, if they could have had a backup ball handler, great. Take a little bit of pressure off of Rob Wright, but mostly they just needed consistent 3-point
Yeah.
shooting, and
Right.
he couldn't do that. And then at the end of the season, when the team had to find its identity for another time throughout the season, they figured out, okay, defense. We really have to lock down on defense. And he just didn't fit in that team anymore.
Yeah, he couldn't do it.
Okay, Boskovic.
Boskovic, man.
Bosco.
Oh, I love that guy. Give him a C plus. I expected more out of him. Again, another one when Saunders went down and too streaky, not consistent enough on defense. With his size and shooting ability, that guy should have been the shoe-in to start. And the fact that KY didn't put him in to start tells you a lot about that Kostic was starting over Boskovic and Boskovic was coming off the bench. He just never took that last step over last year. He had some moments last year where you're thinking, man, one more year in the system. I remember he came out at the end of last season and said, "Hey, I'm coming back next year. I'm going to leave my mark on this program." Like I was waiting for that moment, and it did not materialize when we needed it most. It was too bad to see that.
Yeah, this is a guy that played in the pros in Europe, and I kept waiting for him to kind of adjust, get more comfortable, and come out. And he was a key piece of turning that team around last season, being that real energy guy off the bench, like real kind of just gonna go at it. And he was too streaky. You were more generous. This is the furthest apart we've been on him. I gave him a D plus, and I love his personality. I love the energy he brings, the confidence that he brings. But looking at his stats here, and maybe I need to zoom in more, but I was kind of surprised. I zoomed in on the wrong tab here. So when looking at this, he, in terms of rebounds, like look at this 1.9. He is so tall. And I know that wasn't necessarily what he was asked to do, although he was sometimes he was kind of the big man out there. But like what was he bringing? He wasn't bringing steals. Yeah, he got a few blocks, but I mean, Richie Saunders essentially same. He was streaky. And then I looked at his 3-point shooting. He wasn't even doing that well. Even Moo Davis was doing better at a higher clip than what he was doing. And so I was like, oh, he really didn't bring anything to the team. And so that's why I put him as low as I did. I loved him. I wish we could have seen a little. Well, that's the problem. I guess we did get some of what we saw from him last season. We just didn't get building on it. The problem is this team was constructed differently and didn't need what he had, at least not at the level he was giving it.
Yep.
Okay. Boop.
Oh, Boop, man. I would give Boop a B plus. I loved what he brought because he fit a certain box. He wasn't out there to be a high level scorer. He didn't try and be a high level scorer. I remember he shot an airballed a 3 in the Big 12 tournament. I think it was against West Virginia where we're beating them by 17. KY pulls him out of the game. You could just read his lips like, "Don't do that. Don't shoot the 3." Even though we're winning by 17, he was wide open. He knew what he brought to the table. And he was a guy that would bring energy and lock down defense. And he was your guy that could be the bully out there. I love it. I love the growth from, super raw year one to what he is in year two, what he could be in year three, he's really showing what this NBA prep factory could look like. And so he was just fun. I loved it. Every time he was on the floor, my eyes were on him, even though he wasn't a ball handler. You wanted to see what he was going to do, particularly on defense with his athleticism. So I thought he knew what he needed to bring to the table, and he brought it.
Same B plus. You said it perfectly. I mean, aside from AJ and Richie, there was not a more beloved player on this team, and another player that everyone wanted to see on the court more than Kadeem Boop. Like he brought that energy, that toughness. That he was the dog. Now the problem was, and he guarded like every position too, right? Like
Yeah,
that.
all five.
But he was, he also didn't give you 3-point shooting. And there was a time, I think it was against Texas, where like they just cleared out and he's like in the post and he's like, nobody's open, no one's moving. I guess I'll try and post up and do something here. And I was like, oh, no. And it went as badly as I thought. I was like, maybe he'll show me wrong, and he didn't. So even with that though, everybody wanted him on the floor more. And I just can't believe that he only averaged 12 minutes a game.
Yep.
I don't know what that's about.
I know.
I don't know if people are keeping tabs at home, but not many people are getting A's and B's here from this team. So he's definitely one of them. All right. Tyler Mruss, the Mruss bus.
D-. The Mruss bust. It did not work out. He came in with a ton of potential, but couldn't make it on the floor. Again, when you would think he would bring exactly what we needed: floor spacing, 3-point shooting, that Richie Saunders energy role, and he couldn't get on the floor. When he did get on the floor, he misses open shots. And so for whatever reason, it did not work out.
Yeah, I gave him an F. I mean, he couldn't find his way onto the court, and he had one job: hit 3-point shots. Guess what? You are going to be open. Nobody's going to be paying attention to you. You're really good at one thing. That is all we need you to do. He couldn't do it. And he also brings a little bit of size. Nobody expected him to be a lockdown defender, but he brings a little bit of size and didn't give us anything there. In his defense, and we'll get to that with coaching, is I feel like he was one of those guys that got pulled really quickly and maybe never had a chance to get warm or get comfortable out there. However, these other guys were also shooting very poorly. And if you still couldn't make it onto the court, it does say something. So I say F because, like you said, one job, failed miserably at it. I mean, 29.8% on, I mean, he didn't get that many attempts. I have to look at that. But anyway. All right. Dominique Diamande.
Oh, B. And I wish we would have seen more of him. I know that was everybody's question mark when he came in the Big 12 tournament and just dominated with windmill dunks and lockdown defense and steals. And he was so much fun to watch. You could see, again, similar to Boop, offensive liability, couldn't do much except, throw down the alley-oop. I mean, the athleticism is jaw-dropping. I just feel like I want to stick him in a gym and say, shoot 500,000 shots this summer. Like, with a shooting coach, perfect that for him. Because if he could find a shot, oh my goodness. That is your starter right there. And that's your plug-in for Richie Saunders when he goes down. The energy, the defense, the athleticism, it is all there. The guy's got to find a shot. It's the game. It's basketball. You got to shoot the ball. If he could become a average to pretty good 3-point shooter, my goodness, that guy's future is bright.
Yeah, 100%. I say B- just because I love everything he brought. I second everything you said. My thing is just you don't have to create offense, like unless it's off of defense, like he can do off of steals and tips and blocks. But you got to be able to hit some threes, and he was very bad at that. And so, I mean, we're talking 12.5%, and his free throw shooting was 62.5. So again, not a lot of volume there to measure that off of, but would like to see that, because if he's going to get more and more playing time, he's got to be able to hit down at least at an okay clip, and he's going to get those shots on this team. So love the guy. Hope he sticks around. Hope they can keep developing him, because he is everything that I want out of out of a guy like that. So all right. Everyone's favorite player to hate, Ahmed.
Everybody can hate me because I'm going to give him a B, and I'll tell you why. I think he had the toughest job of any BYU player this year. He came halfway through the season and signed from the G League and had to jump in and figure it out on the fly. He had no prep. He had no off season. He had no time to develop chemistry. Um, and I know there was a lot of critiques on his game, but we didn't ask him to do much, and I felt like he did okay. I think he did okay in post defense. I'd like to see him do more against Boca Titus and against Texas, and so maybe that alone drops him from a B. But he did okay. He's your backup center, right? Coming in to spell Kada sometimes, so Boop doesn't have to play the five, and he did it. And he played in short minutes, and I think his stats were okay in terms of rebounds and blocks for the minutes that he played. He was okay. And I just feel like given the learning curve he had and given the difficulty of joining a team of this caliber mid-season, I thought he did okay. And I know BYU fans hate that, but I thought he did okay.
Yeah, I wasn't as down on him as other people were. Like I said, with Kosic, people like loved him at first, and then they all hated on it. And I wasn't really there on either one of those. I didn't fully grasp those. However, I did give him a C. Would have liked to have seen him live up to that a little bit more. Maybe I go C plus. He was relatively good shot blocker. Didn't feel like he did a whole lot else. But if you could deter, some people from going to the rim. Problem is that everybody was scoring from three. So
Yeah.
he didn't solve our
maybe that hid
biggest
his weaknesses down there.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, Xavier Staten.
Oh, I don't know if we saw enough of him. When he was out there, he was lost, man. He was lost. The athleticism is clear. It's obvious. He can move like crazy, but he was playing against some, the Patsies. That's the only time he got minutes. And even then, he he looked like deer in the headlights, man. So if you're gonna grade him, the actual product on the court was probably D plus. And that's not to say anything. I hope the guys are starting center next year. I really do, because it's all there for him. It's just you could tell it was his first collegiate D1 action out there, because he did not know what was going on, and then he got injured. We didn't get to see him the rest of the season. And that's going to be a key evaluation for this coaching staff next year. Can he anchor that team from the five, or can you bring a five in that's going to be impactful at all? That's a really tough position to fill, and I hope he can come along, because he didn't quite have it there in his first couple games.
Yeah, I mean, I give him incomplete. He's injured most of the season and didn't get tons of reps while he was out there. If I were to grade him, I probably would have said C. It was kind of where we were expecting. We knew he was going to be a bit raw coming in, but I think the potential is there. Want to see him put on some more weight. I'd feel better if we had another guy to start the season and watch him play into that starting role. Maybe he doesn't, fully start, but maybe gets starter minutes or is in there at key moments because he plays into that. I think I would be worried if he's starter day one, just because I don't know if he's going to make that big of a leap. But again, we didn't see him for a lot of the season, but I also have to assume, well, that means he wasn't able to practice at full capacity either.
Correct. Yeah.
So, but yeah, love him down the road and what his potential is. All right, last but not least, Jared McGregor. I'm just going to say now, I give him an A plus. He had a role to fill, and he filled it spectacularly. He there to cheer on the team and be the hype guy on the bench. And I just think back to MSG, when Rob Wright was there, and they were all gathered around, and the face he made whenever whatever Rob said that got bleeped or whatever, his face on the camera, like he was the guy that was there rallying this team. So I give him he had his job and he did it.
Who might argue with you? On that? Everybody loved Jared McGregor, and he never played a meaningful minute in the game all season, and he is beloved by the Cougars. So props to him for being the cheer guy on the bench, but not just that, being well known for being that guy and embracing that role 100%. He knew he wasn't getting any minutes. Everyone else knew he wasn't getting any minutes, and he was loving it.
Man, I would have given to be that guy on
right? Right?
I would have been happy with that. I'm not asking to be Jimmer or AJ out there. Like, if I could have just been good enough just to be that last guy on the bench to sit there and cheer on the team, would have been an amazing college collegiate run there. But even when BYU was blowing out teams or getting blown out, he still barely ever saw the floor. It was astounding at how little action he got. And I also got to give him props for his charity. And I need to reach out, see if we get him on, because things that he's doing to reach out to especially young men that are going through difficult times and things, and made a special effort there with a friend of ours and his family. And so just the impact that he's having at every stop that he goes to, and kids across the country. So really love that. So A+, I'm going A++. Is that a thing?
It is now.
Okay, it is a thing. Let's wrap up here. High level, how would you grade this team on coaching?
Coaching staff, I got to give a B. There's so many things that were good. The offense, when we had the big three, it was unstoppable. The recruiting job that they've done, the job of coaching up AJ to the level he played at. He was not at that level when he came to BYU. And so there's a lot of good things to say about the coaching staff. However, the lack of defense all year long was a major issue, and the lack of ability to flip a switch and fix some of these problems, like the slow starts or the defensive lapses, that to me goes on the coaches. And we talked about this plenty. I think they'll learn from it. I think we got to give KY some grace. It's his second season. He's going to learn from it. But overall, KY has done no wrong in his time here, and the sky is still the limit. But there's some gaps there that they got to solve, and I think a solid B is probably appropriate.
Yeah, when you're talking about coaches with on the hot seat, there could not be a coach in the country with a colder seat than Kevin Young. He's not going anywhere. Like, he's stuck to it because it's ice, and he sat on it, and you got to peel him off. He's not going anywhere. Well, BYU's not getting
BYU doesn't want him to go anywhere, right? I mean, he could get hired by an NBA team still. He could get poached by a blue blood. I mean, I don't think he's going anywhere. Again, his decision to come to Provo was not basketball related. It was family related. And so It's a totally different dynamic there in him choosing to stay or leave. And fortunately, I think he has every incentive to stay outside of basketball. In addition to the basketball team being good, I think he's invested in it, and BYU is rewarding him for it. So I agree. Fortunately, both he and Kalani are sitting on ice cold seats, and I love that for those major programs. Throw in Lee Kamard along that too. Like, it's great to have stability there and coaches that are at the highest level of the game.
Don't forget the cross country and all the, we got some great coaching across the board. But yeah, like you said, he's there for family reasons, and it's not just collegiate, like specifically BYU. They're closer to family. Like, I just don't see him going to another. It's possible he could go to another collegiate program. Maybe he loves the college game and decides he never wants to go to the NBA. I think his ultimate route is at BYU as long as it makes sense for him and his family, until the right opportunity opens up at the NBA, and then he might go that way.
That's where I think it'll go.
I don't think this goes any differently than that. I would be surprised. I give them a C+. And it's hard to really grade them because we're not in those practices. We're not on the bench. We don't know what's going on, what they're telling players, what they know that we don't know, that they obviously don't want to give out to the public and to opponents. So we don't know all the pieces to this. And so it's impossible for us to grade. But what influenced me on this grade was there were several things, like you talked about. There were persistent issues that we saw, and not being able to see them change. But there were also seemingly obvious solutions, like, hey, why don't we not play that guy? Hey, that Boop guy that gives exactly what this team needs, why don't we try playing him a few more minutes? And there were just different things that it felt like they were very slow to do. Then at the end of the season, when they were forced to do some of those things, like lean into the defensive side, say, hey, we're not getting any three-point shooting. Now let's just let our two scorers score, and everybody else out there has to be able to defend. And once they started leaning into that, they started turning things around, kind of finding their mojo again. And it felt like this was something that I saw from home. I don't know why they didn't try that sooner, at least test it out. Like, you were kind of spiraling. You needed to do something, but injuries kind of forced their hand to it. And so I don't know. I'm not saying that we were smarter. We knew more than they did. They had all the same information we had, plus tons more, and they're way smarter. So I had to trust they were making those decisions for a reason. But then just to see it play out on the court where those things ended up, they worked, at least to the extent that, the best extent that they could, that really made me question some of, their slowness to adapt. And so I know C+ is probably pretty harsh, but you had AJ DeBonsa. And even when you had AJ DeBonsa, the whole big three intact, and a guy like Keba Keita anchoring the middle, who when he was healthy, like even then they had some of these struggles. So the fact that they could never really put that together, I don't know. Man, I kind of hold it against them. I mean, this feels like a bit of a lost season.
A little bit.
Okay. Lastly, offense. How would you grade our offense?
Pre-Richie Saunders injury was an A. I mean, they were unstoppable. They were one of the best offenses in the country. Post-injury, B-. Just because it felt stagnant. It felt like you could have had more there, and maybe the lack of shooting and you just didn't have anybody that could consistently hit a three-pointer outside of right. That wasn't really his role. So the offense was just, it was iso ball with AJ, and he showed up every night and he scored, even though all five guys on the defense were guarding him. But he was your offense after that. So, but pre-injury, I mean, that offense was unbelievable. It was defense was the issue.
Yeah, I said B-, but I was looking at the whole season. You're right. Before that, with Richie, it was definitely better. But putting up points generally wasn't this team's problem. Yeah, obviously near the end a bit, but even when they had all three big three and they were lighting up scoreboards against everybody, it still was a lot of my turn, your turn, pass the ball. I mean, it was going back to the Phoenix Suns with KD, and it was
a lot of that.
Very much my turn, your turn, and that to me is kind of where I was like, hey, they're still putting up points, but it was not pretty. It did not feel very sophisticated. So B-. All right. Lastly, defense.
D+.
Oh, I went with an F. So
it was that was the Achilles heel of the team all season long, and I give them a D+ because they hit stretches like that Texas Tech run to West Virginia, that 3-game stretch where you're like, oh, hey, it gives you hope. They've got this figured out. They're going to turn a corner at the end of the season. There were stretches where they could actually play defense. That's what was so frustrating, is that the team had it in them. They had the length, they had the athleticism, they had the guys that they could play defense, and they didn't. And so it was very frustrating to me. That's why I give them the D+, is that there were spurts where they actually could do it. But it was very frustrating that they couldn't pull it together.
Yeah, maybe F is too harsh, but when every single team against you has the best 3-point shooting night of their life.
If you're talking about the perimeter defense, and this is 2 years in a row, you're struggling. And so that, to me, I mean, they came in and they said in the offseason, that's obviously a point of emphasis. We saw what happened in the Alabama game, blah, 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 blah. That's your point of emphasis this year, and you come out and you fall completely flat. So there has to be a defensive rebuild, either from philosophy or from coaching or the players you recruit. I don't know. But something's got to change with your perimeter defense specifically. I know you got beat by Boca Titus in the end and all that, but you're right. Every team came out and shot their brains out against us. No matter what, the bad 3-point shooting teams came out and they'd rain threes on us. It just, everybody would have a career night against us. And that doesn't happen by chance. That happens a couple times throughout the year. That's fine. Every night that happened.
Yep. Every time. All right. Well, there are grades. I'm going to run through this super quick. Okay. AJ, A+. Rob Wright, B+. Richie, A-, Moo, C+. Dawson Baker, incomplete. Keita, B+. Kosic, C-, D+. So either way, low. Boscovich, D+, C+. So low. And Boop, B+. Russ, D-, F. I mean, at that point, D-, you may as well just fail him. Diamande, B-, B. Ahmed, C, B. Staten, incomplete. McGregor, A+++. Coaching, C+, B. Offense, B-, A if you want to start the year, much better. And then defense, F, D+. So pretty similar on most of those. I think that's pretty fair assessment. So we'll get into, as the season goes on, what kind of changes we'd like to see, especially when they start bringing in guys and how we think this team is going to shape up, where they need to focus on recruiting with the next team. But until then, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, go Cougs.
Go Cougs.